Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Sunday, August the 6th is race number 8 at Mountaineer Park. It is the signature race for the entire year at Mountaineer. It's the Grade 3 $500,000 West Virginia Derby. Before we take a look at this race for 3-year-olds going a mile and an eighth, remember to amplify your handicapping with Timeform US past performances available at DRF.com. Learn more about all the great features, DRF.com/TFUS101. Here's the field for the West Virginia Derby. Please scan or click the QR code for Race of the Day access on mobile. It is a big field. The 13 and 14 are entered, also eligible. These are 3-year-olds, Mike, that have been knocking heads with some of the big names. They're probably a notch or 3 below the Fortes of the world, but they're capable of putting on a really good show.
Yeah, they are. This is a good spot for several of these. I mean, it's a big field. It feels like there's a lot of filler in here, Dan, but there's also a handful of really nice 3-year-olds in this race. They get class relief in here, but they still get to run for a big purse.
Let's throw up the Timeform US pace projector. Going a mile and an eighth, we're expecting a fast pace. 1 in Vermilion was the pace setter last time out at Prairie Meadows in the Iowa Derby. Expected to show some speed. Dreaming of Kona drew the inside post. That horse is fast, adding Lasix. Some others in here have tactical speed. This could finally set up for the 4 Red Route 1, who is a true one-run closer.
Yeah, the 4 Red Route 1. He's going to need some help to win this race. Maybe he'll get it if this pace projector is right. He certainly will. Definitely 1 in Vermilion's a really fast horse, Dan. But Dreaming of Kona's been involved in some pretty fast paces on dirt.
Speaking of Dreaming of Kona, he was placed first via disqualification on dirt earlier this year, and he just recently won a stakes race sprinting on the synthetic at Presque Isle Downs. He's now going to return to dirt after a turf experiment in the Manila. I think he's a little bit dirtied up, Mike. He's got some speed. He's got Lasix. He's got the inside post. You'll know him after the first half mile. The question is he good enough?
Yeah. That is a very valid question. They've tried a lot of different things with this horse, Dan, and maybe it's ultimately you're just going to say he's better on dirt. We'll find out. He's running some tough races on the main track. It's a question, not only what kind of trip can he get in here, Dan, it's a question how far he wants to go. The two-turn races on dirt, they're not very good.
Lord Miles upset the Wood Memorial 2 starts back. It was at this distance. It looked like he was on his way to the Kentucky Derby. That did not work out. He ran in the Ohio Derby last time out off a little bit of a layoff. He didn't run great in that race, but he also ran into a very good 3-year-old in the now retired 2 Phils. He's getting Lasix for the first time, and a good trip could be coming from post 2.
He's good enough to be really competitive in here, Dan. So we'll see if he can take a step forward here. Maybe there's some kind of an excuse for his most recent start. Obviously, he wasn't going to beat 2 Phils in that race anyway, but he was terrible in there. He never picked his feet up.
I know you've been a big fan of the 3 Tapits Conquest for a while, and it's nice to see that this well-bred colt is finally starting to put things together. He's earned 96 Beyer speed figures in his last 2 races, including a game score last time out at Ellis Park, and they're finally figuring it out. He's got tactical speed. They can use it.
Yeah, they could put him into the race a little bit earlier. He could fall into a trip here, too, if this pace gets fast, because he doesn't need to be on the lead. And listen, they've sort of backed off with him. I felt like they wanted to try to make him a Derby horse earlier this year, then it didn't work out. I like the spots they've been running him in, though. I actually felt like he ran really well, too, back in the Sir Barton. He was only second best that day to Arabian Lion, but that was a really good performance from this horse, and he just hooked up with the other favorite last time in an allowance race. They dueled all the way around the track. This horse was best.
Red Route 1 was firmly on the Kentucky Derby trail. He placed in major stakes races at Oaklawn, the Rebel, the Southwest. He did get a stakes win over this distance at Oaklawn later in the spring. You can argue his last 2 races, 2 legs of the Triple Crown, were a bit disastrous. The Preakness simply from a pace perspective. There was nothing for this horse to run at. He had to be a lot closer to the pace than usual, and he's probably just not as good as those horses anyway. The Belmont was not good at all, but I won't argue with anyone who says, I'll take a mile and a half race with many grains of salt.
Yeah, that's probably true against that field in particular. Listen, we'll see how good this horse is. Obviously, he's not grade 1 caliber. We know that about him now, so they're going to back off and run him in races where he can be more competitive. This is one of those. And he might have some pace to run at. Listen, he's the second favorite on the morning line, really close. He'll take money in here. I'm not a fan. I don't think he's that good. I'd rather have the other favorite in this race, but this is a good spot for this horse.
Horse racing is great because we go from a patrician to a plebeian. The number 5 is Looka Looka. He was claimed for $4,000 last time out, and he didn't crack the trifecta in that race. It's fair to say he's going to be a giant price if he goes.
Yeah, really, just really, really hard, obviously, to make any kind of a case for in here. Will be a huge price if you somehow like him.
A little bit of diversity in this race. The 6 My Man Biggie coming in from Arapahoe Park in Colorado. Let's watch his most recent start. The son of Mr. Big is going to finish third in this 3 life allowance. He's been well traveled throughout the Southwest, Mike. Heck, he was third in the University of Arizona Racetrack Industry Program at Relito.
Yeah, they moved him around looking for spots for him. Actually, they've done pretty well by this horse. He's placed in a couple of stakes races, mostly going shorter. Obviously, this is, even against this kind of a field, it's a significant step up in class. He's going to be a big price.
Major class concerns distance as well, but they've managed this horse very nicely. The 7 times at Tappan, he finished 4th at Thistledown last time out, going a mile and a 16th. The winner of that race did come back to finish 3rd, only got a 63 buyer and an $8,000 starter allowance. So major class concerns as he steps back up into graded stakes ranks. It didn't work so well in the Ohio Derby.
Yeah, they tried the Ohio Derby 3 back. He went off at 1,000,000 to 1. He was never a factor in that race. This race isn't as tough as that one, but he's still going to be a big price.
Calbred won in Vermilion, took a tough DQ loss last time out in the Iowa Derby. Let's watch that race. He was sent from the inside post to make the lead. He took pressure all the way through the turn. He is very, very game in the stretch, but he's also getting very, very tired. He's going to drift out under left-handed urging, and although he gets to the wire first, he'll be placed second for interference. You have to respect his speed, the form, the buyer speed figures. I'm not sure how far he wants to go.
Yeah, I don't know either. That's a very game performance that we just watched there, Dan. And he did do all of the hard work on the pace in there. I can't say that I love that he dead heated with 1,000,000 to 1 shot at the end of that race, but he was game to hold on. We'll see what he does here. I didn't like him. I would never take the 4-to-1 price on him, but we'll see what happens.
I think the number 9 Groveland is a very interesting price play in here for Owen Hardy. This is a Godolphin homebred who showed some ability earlier this year when second in the Sam F. Davis. After a bad performance in the Tampa Bay Derby, I like that they gave him time off and they gave him a prep at Hawthorne against easier competition and a non-winners of 2 life. He's on the outside and he utilizes his grinding style to wear down the pace setter at odds on. This distance is what he wants. Now he has to start running faster.
Yeah, he's got to run faster races, but I agree with you. Among the horses who are, pretty big prices on the morning line, he feels like the most interesting one. There's forward to go here. I like the way he finishes in this race, particularly. The Sam Davis was not a bad performance very early on. He's got some improving to do, but they're finding this is the right kind of race to run him in and see what they have for the second half of the year.
Lieutenant Fartlick, it's tough to make a case for him. He was claimed out of a losing effort in a conditioned $4,000 claimer. He hasn't run well in 3 starts since.
Yeah, I didn't try that hard to make a case for him.
Race Kane won the Gotham over a muddy track at a big price while getting a nice closer's trip behind a fast pace. They tried him in the Bluegrass. They tried him in the Derby. It's apparent that he's not up to the standards of the Fortes of the world, but he's a pretty good second-tier 3-year-old, as evidenced by this performance in the Indiana Derby last time out, a race where he swings widest into the stretch. He's going to have a look at the odds-on favorite verifying, and he's just going to miss. He's going to get Lasix for the first time. He should get some pace. But I think it's fair to question whether this horse is at his best when there's some moisture in the ground. His big races have come in the mud or on good tracks.
Yeah, that's true. We'll see if that winds up being a deal breaker for this horse. He's pretty good though, man. I think all of his races are good. This is a great spot for this horse. I'll admit, Dan, that I'm not so sure that, 9 furlongs and longer. I'm not sure that's what he really wants. He might be a little better going a little shorter. I'm not arguing with this spot though. I think he's the horse to beat.
Tough outside post for the 12, West Coast Cowboy making his 3rd start of the form cycle. Nice first level allowance win 2 starts back. Similar situation as the Godolphin horse. They tried him against Tougher. It didn't work out. They gave him a little bit of break. Maybe they'll have a nice second half 3-year-old.
Yeah, they could. He's still lightly raced enough to hold out some hope for. He did improve his figure last time, Dan. I'll admit I wanted to see him put in a little bit of a stronger stretch kick there. That pace was pretty fast in front of him. He still ran okay.
Russian Hammer, the 13, Knockout Guy, the 14, entered, also eligible. Both would be tough to make a case for if they get into this race. Before we take a look at our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time for the West Virginia Derby. It's a pretty wide open race, Mike. Where are you heading?
I'm going to take Tappett's Conquest in this race. Dan, I don't think that's going to be a big surprise to you. I think he can get the right trip in here. This pace should be solid in front of him. He doesn't need to be on it. I think the trip is coming. I like his last two races a lot. I think he fits right in here.
And he's not one of the big name horses, so maybe he falls through the cracks a little bit from a wagering standpoint. I think he's got a ton of upside and is coming into his own. I think Raise Cane's going to get the right setup in here. It's all about whether he can save a little bit of ground breaking from post position 11 and then get a trip weaving his way through this bulky field. There are bound to be some horses that are backing up at the half-mile polar. So 3:11.98 for Mike, 11.834 for me. It's the West Virginia Derby on Sunday at Mountaineer. Best of luck.